If you want to be a property investor in 2024, you need to know what BRR is and how it works. So BRR stands for buy, refurbish, refinance, rent. Now, this is nothing like the traditional way to buy a property. And in this video, I'm going to be explaining how to structure a BRR investment, why it's really good and why the rich people buy properties this way, but also what are the downfalls and the pitfalls and some of the caveats and issues with the BRR strategy that you need to be aware of if you're wanting to be a property investor. So firstly, let's look at the normal way to buy a house. I'm sure this is the way you're familiar with it. Let's say there's a house, £200,000 property. How would you normally go about by buying a £200,000 property? Well, what you do is you'd probably save up a deposit, £50,000, put that down, get a mortgage for the outstanding difference, which will be £150,000, and then your mortgage payments might be £500 a month, but your rent would be £1,000 a month, and you are making a nice passive income from your £50,000 investment, as well as waiting for the property to go up in value. Now, that is a good strategy. That's called buy to let. The only problem with buy to let is you've got to save up 50 grand. And then you put down your 50 grand, and then you've got to save up another 50 grand to buy your second property, and then another £50,000, and then another £50,000. If you want to buy 10 properties, you're going to need to save £500,000, which most people physically wouldn't be able to do because the average salary is 30 grand a year, depending on where you are in the country. How are you going to save up 50 grand? So buy, refurbish, refinance. How does this work? This is where you buy a property, but you buy one that's run down. So you might buy a property rather than for £200,000. It's run down. It needs 50 grand spending on it in form of a refurb. It's got structural issues, damp, dry rot. So you buy it for £100,000, but you don't buy it with a mortgage, you buy it cash. Because it's an uninhabitable house, you pay 0 stamp duty taxes, which also, is a saving right there. So you buy it cash. Now you might be thinking about how you're going to get the cash. We'll get there. You then spend £50,000 refurbishing it and making it beautiful. But now you've increased the value and now it's worth £200,000. And that is when you refinance. So that's the BRR, right? Buy, refurb, refinance. So you now get a mortgage of 75% of the new value, and the new value is 200. So you're now getting £150,000 back in your pocket, tax-free, because they can't tax you on debt, which means that your £100,000 purchase price and your £50,000 refurb is now coming back to you, which means you can do what? You can go and buy another property. This is a way of recycling your money. What you're doing is, rather than buying a house and waiting for the value to go up, you're forcing the property value up by refurbishing it. So that's what it is. Now, how do you get the £150,000 in the first place? Well, there's many companies that will offer something called a bridging loan. Now, a bridging loan is where you get a loan which bridges the gap between purchasing the house and getting a mortgage. So rather than getting a mortgage at the beginning, you get a mortgage at the end, and you use that to pay back the bridging loan. That's what buy, refurbish, refinance, rent is. The good thing about it, and I'm going to give you the caveat, I'll give you some of the downsides. The good thing about buy, refurbish, refinance is if you've only got 50 grand, as long as you can find a bridging company to work with you, you can buy a house, push the value up, refinance it, but now you've got your money back. So now you go again and again and again and again, and you can keep recycling your money and building your portfolio using the same pot of money. That's the good thing. Another good thing about buy, refurbish, refinance is they can't tax you on it. There's no stamp duty taxes because it's uninhabitable. When you refinance, they can't tax you on that because it's not profit. If you bought a house for 100 grand, spent 50 grand on it and then sold it, now you've made 50 grand profit. And now you're going to have to pay capital gains tax or corporation tax if it's in a company. But if you refinance it, your 50 grand profit, you're keeping in as the deposit and they can't tax you on debt. Another good thing about it is you're helping the economy. You're not competing with first-time buyers. You're buying only the run-down houses and you're making them better. Also, from a maintenance perspective, you're going to be much better off because you've just spent 50 grand refurbishing it, knocking it back to brick, new kitchen, new bathroom. So now you're going to have much less maintenance issues with the property. So I love this strategy. But what are the downsides? Well, number one, the downside is finding these deals. I know there's going to be people that say, oh, where do you find a rundown house for 100 grand? You know, these deals don't exist. That's not true. They do exist. You can buy them from auctions with motivated sellers, even with agents. They do exist, but it will take time finding a deal like this. Geez, if you find a deal like this and you haven't got the money, I'll buy it from you. Let me know and I'll give you a fee. So they do exist, but it does take time finding them. Another con is you might find a deal like this, but you might not be able to get bridging finance because there's a lot of bridging companies that say you need experience, you need to have been in the business for X number of years. That's one of the reasons why I set up Samuel Lees Finance, which I put £11 million of my own money into for the purpose of loaning money out to my students to help them get their first deal. Another risk of buy, refurbish, refinance is that the refurb can go over budget, and this is quite normal. So you might think the refurb is going to be 50 grand, but then as soon as you start stripping the walls back and oh my gosh, there's much more damp than I thought, the refurb can run over. Now you need more money and now the deal doesn't stack up, and that can be an absolute nightmare. So make sure when you're doing this that you get independent building surveys, you get builder's quotes, and you do it properly. This is to be treated seriously. This is an actual business. So it's much easier to just buy houses that are already in good condition, but you're going to get whacked with tax and you're going to need to keep saving up 50 grand from your job or business. So it's much more expensive and less attractive. The buy, refurbish, refinance strategy is much more scalable, but it involves a bit more work and you're going to need to be on it with the builders. So that is in a nutshell what it is. What do you think? Do you like the strategy? Have you had success with the strategy? If you want to see live case studies of my deals or my students' deals, I go around all the time. Every week I go and view properties that either I've bought or I've invested in or my students have bought. So if you're worrying about, oh, do these deals actually exist? Or I want to see a deal like this, then I'm going to leave a link in the description with a whole playlist where you can see me out on house tours with real life buy, refurbish, refinance projects. Also, if you want to spend a day with me learning about buy, refurbish, refinance, learning about how to invest in property in this economy, I'm going to be running a full day's seminar called the Property Investors Crash Course, where I'm literally going to be not just explaining how to find these deals, but I'm going to be on my laptop showing you how to find these deals and then asking you to do the same on the day. It's going to be a very, very powerful, transformational, educational day, and tickets are just £1. So again, I'll leave a link in the description. Come and spend a day with me if you're serious about doing this, because if you wanted to be a driving instructor, you'd need to learn how to drive and get lessons yourself first. If you wanted to be an engineer, you'd go to university or college to learn to be an engineer. And in the same way, if you want to be a property investor, it makes sense to learn from other people's mistakes rather than learning from your own mistakes. So I'll leave a link in the description. I look forward to seeing you in person at the Property Investors Crash Course. And the best part is tickets are just £1. So I'll see you there. Get booked on. Thanks for listening.